Hurry up!
Hi, I'm Jomo,
And I'm Kyle,
and you're watching Time Attack.
the only video game show on the internet.
And today we have a very special guest joining us, Kyle.
The only Kyle on the internet.
And we have just 15 minutes to talk about Mischief Makers for the N64.
Start the clock.
Clock is started. So, Mischief Makers is a puzzle action platforming game, originally for the N64, where you play as Marina, who is an intergalactic cyborg of sorts,
Sounds right.
who grabs, shakes, throws, and snaps stuff. So there is no punching, kicking, though it mentions her knife kicks at some point in the game, in the dialogue. But yeah, what do you guys think about Mischief Makers?
Very unique. It's unique in the sense that it's a Nintendo 64 platformer, but also just in the sense that, like, the way it plays. Like, it's not, the only other thing I can think of is Super Mario Brothers 2 / Doki Doki Panic. In the emphasis on picking up and throwing as your primary means of attack, and also moving around sometimes too. Yeah.
I felt bad initially picking people up and throwing them because they were just villagers, and I think the guy said, "Hey, please don't do that." But when I shook people, money came out. So
Yeah, you have all the
Kept
reason
doing it.
to.
It doesn't mean it's legal. That happens in real life too, you know.
I mean,
If you shake someone down, get money.
it felt good, so I kept doing it. That's all I'm saying.
Now, you play as Marina. You're on this. It was kind of weird. Later in the game, they talk about Earth, but in the beginning of the game, they talk about you being on the planet Clancer. And
But is she not from Earth? And Clancer is the main setting of the game where all the weird Shy Guys
I
live?
believe so, but later on in
Sure.
the game, they talk about how like we have to save Earth or something about Earth, and it's like we're on Clancer and we're dealing with the Clancers.
Could be a translation.
I'm going to be honest. When I was listening to the story, I was just press A as fast as possible.
Oh, you didn't read? There's barely a story.
That's why I think I'm like, this doesn't seem like there's much to it. You know, the professor keeps getting kidnapped over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's up to Marina to save him.
Yeah.
And every time she saves him, he tries to grope her. Then she punches him back in the stratosphere and has to save him again.
Yes, that's
Rinse and repeat
Yep.
for 6 worlds.
Yep, that's right. That's right. you nailed it.
So it's the individual dialogue. Like, I read some of the tips and stuff when like there's that one character, that the ball you find, you can shake her and then she'll give you information if you pay her.
That's right, the pink one.
That was the only text I read in the game, and I only did that because I knew some of the solutions to progress were so like cryptic, right? Like the big part of this game is it's a platform, but it's a puzzler. You also have to kind of figure out, mostly through trial and error, where to go, because it's not something common sense is going to help you with. I don't think.
It's really interesting. When I was playing the game, I thought about a whole bunch of other games like Warp Stars. I'm thinking of Kirby, and then there was something else that it's just all these little different things. Oh, Mega Man. Her design kind of reminds me a little bit of Mega Man to some degree. Yeah. So it's kind of funny to see all these little pieces. But
the slide is kind of Mega Man, isn't it? I don't play Mega Man.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So you got the bosses, right? Your first big boss is that lava dragon guy.
Yeah, that fight's awesome.
It's just fun. I don't know what it is about it exactly, but I love when he's like pounding on you and just like blocking, grab, throw it back into his face.
It's a very dynamic fight. There's a lot going on, both in terms of like the variety of his attacks, and then like the way you can counter him, catch his fist, punch him, or punch his dad.
Yeah.
Who's also in the arena. And just there's a lot going on, but it's not like overwhelming.
Yeah.
Unlike like later ones where it almost becomes overwhelming in some of the later fights.
Now, I played this game as a kid, and I remember, I don't know why it gives me chills. It's not that big of a deal, but when the professor gets eaten by the dragon, he's like screaming, and then he's it's like, oh my gosh.
It gave you chills.
Yeah, as a kid, it's like he just got eaten, like he ate him.
They killed that character.
There's something about like someone screaming and being completely silenced.
I guess you didn't realize at the time that he was going to escape.
Maybe
and that
not.
The same kind of shit was going to happen throughout the game.
It would just eject him after you save him. Oh, he's fine.
Yeah. There's like a weird, like when you beat the dragon guy and you just hear.
Oh yeah.
It was like, what
you hurt him.
He just goes backwards and just blows up.
The sound effects in general are pretty amusing, like the shake, shake, shake.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But yeah, the bosses are very, very, especially some of them are pushing. Like when I first saw this as a kid, I wondered, like, I never played it, but I saw screenshots and such, and like, why is this on the Nintendo 64? Like, I understand that was the newest system, right? But I didn't quite click why it would be 2D, especially at the time when they're really pushing for 3D games. And I think the answer is in the boss fights, in just how crazy, like, the camera's moving around, spinning, zooming the sprites, because they're still pre-rendered sprites, but they're morphing and rotating. And it's like what we had with the Super FX chip on Super Nintendo, but it's like, instead of Super FX chip 1 or 2, we're at like 8 suddenly. Like the difference is staggering for what this can do versus the Super Nintendo. And that instance is where you see it the clearest, I would say.
Oh, what was that? Sorry. You know when you defeat a boss, they go into that like healing tank?
Yeah. The back to tank.
Yeah. The Star Wars, or it could be Dragon Ball Z or something like that.
I think there's a lot of inspirations throughout the game. Just like I definitely catch like anime, kind of almost like Dragon Ball Z with like the professor. I think maybe I'm thinking the wrong anime. Isn't it? What's his face? The old guy.
Oh,
Dragon Ball
Roshi?
Z. Yeah, Roshi.
Oh, yeah.
Is he Professor?
I know the design
It's
is different, but like the way they have this little house, this little
Oh,
bungalow.
sure. Yeah,
and they got the what's that
Big
table? It's
beard.
called the blanket.
That's
It's very
Tatami
Japanese.
meant.
Yeah.
Sorry, the one the heat.
Is it
not
Kotatsu?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have an Animal Crossing. That's how I know my Japanese.
That's what they have in Japan, man. They have little islands with your own little house and professors and
Not to go off topic, but I mean that blanket with the heating, that's a great idea. I want one.
Yeah, your house would use that. That'd be great.
I always get so cold. But yeah.
But there's actually, floor deeper underneath the blanket, so you can put your feet like in the ground.
Oh, that's genius. I didn't know that.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
But yeah, Mischief Makers.
Mischief Makers,
Which is a Japanese game.
You know what's interesting? Why do you think they call it Mischief Makers?
I bet you it's not called anything like that in Japan, and this is just a marketable American title. That's my guess. I have no idea.
I'm not sure either, but I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe it's because the Clancers are mischievous or something.
Or that the villains are causing mischief, I guess. I don't know. It's hard. I don't think it's a fitting title. It's good, but it doesn't
like you remember
anything.
it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem to fit.
It's unique, but not like quite appropriate, I guess. Yeah.
If you have to if you've beaten the entire game like I have, and you have to stop and try to think why it's called Mischief Makers, that's a problem.
Yeah. Was it me? Were we the Mischief Makers?
But like you said,
Was it Marina?
Well,
you remember
Marina
it.
was, because remember there's that person impersonating
That's right.
it at the very beginning of the game.
You're running it through the levels, and just ahead of you, it seems like there's a marina, and you're getting recognized for causing all this mischief. So,
Oh, and then when you finally see it,
See what?
the marina impersonator, the Clancer.
spot on.
Oh.
Just like
That's
Marina.
very gross.
Yeah,
But
she's there a transformation sequence too.
what was I going to talk
Remember
about? I the game though, like the actual gameplay. I found that the balancing of the difficulty was weird. Like the first level, it's a tutorial, it's a cakewalk, but they almost don't force you to learn anything. So when you get to the second level, you're suddenly supposed to know how to like jump and bounce yourself off these different, like, what do you even call those balls? There's balls everywhere.
Balls of
Slingshot
faces.
yourself away,
The face balls, right?
The emoji.
Yeah, the emojis. So when you're trying to launch yourself off of those over pits of lava and like catch them all and stuff, it got very frustrating very fast. But then I felt like everything after that, with the exception of a couple boss fights, was like pretty easy. So it's like there's definitely an issue with like, maybe it's me learning it, maybe it's the tutorial not being as demanding as it should be, because I don't think I fully learned how to play the game until like World 3 or 4. Then I kind of knew what I was doing. But at that point, I was like getting frustrated because like I keep falling in the lava, and it's just, I don't understand why.
Well, there's I find like there's lots of ways to play it, because on the N64 controller you have the D-pad as well as the directional C buttons, and they both do the same thing. So you can kind of like get to higher platforms quicker.
Using them both?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like I remember my thumb actually getting really hurt, feeling after trying to pull off some of these stunts. But like the gameplay is very varied. There's a level where you're riding a tricycle through exploding water behind you.
Well, I kind of hated that one. But
yeah. There's this. It's like the king needs his favorite tricycle, or you have to collect ghosts. Or
you participate in the Olympics.
You participate in the Olympics. You're fighting a frog and throwing lightning from a god into him to destroy the frog that creates a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, for sure.
You're picking up guns that are just tennis balls, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just I don't know. It's just like early in the level. Remember, you're on that rocket and you got to balance the rocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's
But
just
if the rocket hits, it explodes.
yep, and you got to start from a save point or whatever. But
It's one of those things where it's like it's neat that there's so much variety, but on the other hand, that does lead to frustration in the sense that that's where you'll hit a wall where it feels like you don't know what to do, and it's being unfair because you've just learned something new, and it's like, well, now here's the hardest version of that. Like the tricycle one's a good example where it's like, I don't really know how do I get to jump properly, because you can't jump, you have to use like speed to go over ramps. But it's like it goes right from being super easy to having this spot where I kept falling constantly, like maximum challenge.
yeah.
And then once you're done that level's done, you're done with that tricycle forever.
Yeah.
See, you have a very different experience than me because I grew up with this game.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things are normalized,
Mhm.
but for you guys, you're going in here like, what is this? I started thinking about this game more when I'm playing it and then thinking about the story, and I'm just like, this is a weird game. This is really weird. But when you have it your whole life, it's like, oh yeah, that's Mischief Makers.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's weird in a good way. I just find like it does have the possibility of becoming very frustrating in spots. Even certain bosses, like the guy with the mech with the legs, you can like trip him
Yeah.
and drag his mech.
Oh yeah,
And I learned all that pretty quickly. And then I'm like, well, he's sitting there on the ground. I have his mech.
Yeah.
What the hell do I do with it?
Yeah.
And it took me forever to figure out the right. I think you have to hold down or something, whatever you hold to make you pile drive it into him.
Yeah.
And it's like that kind of thing happened throughout, where it's just you would fight somebody or get to a part like an obstacle, and you kind of understand what to do, but not really.
Yeah.
And it's just trial and error.
And that's where I kind of see it as being a puzzle game, because you have to figure out like, what am I supposed to do here? Like when I was fighting the hawk guy with the lance, I couldn't remember how to like. I was throwing the items at him when he's doing his dashing back and forth, but I wasn't getting that sound where it's like, oh, he got hurt. It just got kind of like this ding ding, and I didn't think it did anything. And then I had to look up on, like, oh, you are supposed to throw this stuff at him, and he does get hurt. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
The feedback, the visual feedback's not very good in that boss. I remember feeling the same thing.
Yeah, it was like, but that's a great boss.
Yeah, once you know what to do.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's like, I love how he just jumps off that drill, comes at you, you grab his shield, you pull it off, and grab his lance, pull it off him, throw stuff at him, grab his bird's head, bring it back. It's I don't know, it's just very satisfying pulling stuff.
Well, it's also like with all the bosses, it's just kind of like epic in scope and ambition, right? Like it's I don't use that word lightly, but like as far as 2D platformers go, like these bosses are epic.
Oh, well, when you're fighting Lunar, you have that cat, which you beat up with dodgeball from the Olympics. Yeah. It's like, that's totally random. Now you're riding on the cat, and you're grabbing missiles, you're shaking missiles, you're throwing them back at him, and then sometimes you can jump with the cat on a missile, and now the cat's riding the missile, and you can move around with the missile, and you can grab another missile and throw it at him. It's like the giant cannon blasts. The vehicles are turning into dogs, and then you're fighting Lunar while like what appears to be like motion is occurring.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. It just looks really cool.
So we may ask our guest, who is very silent, how far did you get in this game?
I beat that first boss crocodile lava fight. Mm-hmm. If that was kind of like the halfway point, I got that much further. So I don't know if I got a quarter through the game, halfway through the game.
It's about 6 worlds.
Okay, so maybe did I get to 2 worlds?
Well, he's the boss of World 2, so it sounds like you'd be either 3 or 4.
Maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, so you fought.
So I was privy to. I don't think I did a second boss fight though, but I was privy to a great change in environments and enemies. The first part, there's a lot of like the same clay faces on everything, but after that, you have different kind of environments and stuff. One thing I did enjoy was just in the same vein that the game does, it just introduces something. Suddenly, there's a little bag, and you can put stuff in it, and you can shake that, and you can mix stuff together and make things.
That seemed way too complicated for what they actually used.
They introduced a crafting system in the game. It was kind of out of nowhere, I thought. But anyway, it was kind of fun to like, oh, well, if I walk a little bit further, an enemy with a bomb spawns, so I'll just make a bunch of bombs that make this. And there's a puzzle element where you sort of need that for some of the levels. But there's also obviously the opportunity for just like, well, I want to make a bunch of razor discs and then I'll have them and throw them out, you know. So,
but then you have to.
You gotta lug it around though. You gotta carry.
I
the
was
thing
very
around the
relieved
level.
when I didn't have to really learn it.
Yeah.
When I first introduced, it, I'm like, oh god, I don't know what.
Well, you
that
try it, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, how useful is this? How much do I like this? But then as soon as it's like burdensome, yeah, I just put it away.
Well, it's also like how much does the game make you use it, and thankfully not very much. There's a couple puzzles in I think it's snow level.
Things have to drop into it or something.
Yeah.
You gotta put people into it.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
one
You gotta
point.
you gotta keep little clay people in it and
Yeah.
put them in there.
Yeah, and then that was kind of some different environments. The snow area, they
Yep.
have the little snowmen and little snow huts, and it's a very aesthetically pleasing game.
Well, like to Kyle's point, I'm half and half on that. I like the backgrounds, they and the characters. The backgrounds really remind me of Donkey Kong Country, especially the cave level. It reminds me of Donkey Kong Country 3. But
for sure.
the blocks, the face blocks, it's a cool idea. They go really hard
They're
on
kind of
it.
haunting. Too.
When you look at them, I looked at it closely. I'm like, this is a little disturbing. It's like when you think but it's not.
Well, I guess that's 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow, that went by quick. Oh, good thing you guys say something about the game, eh?
Yeah, I played it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching.
Time over!